Good morning, everyone. It's about 8:30 in the morning here on the 21st of December, 2022, 12/21/2022. What I'm going to do here today is just give a real quick update on Bitcoin and give a sort of a count update on the higher macro chart. Before I get into all of this, as you all know, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research, and this is just my opinion on the market. So let me go ahead and move on over into the chart. So here, looking at Bitcoin, I wanted to zoom out and kind of go back to the bottom in 2018, and I want to give a couple little comparisons to what the market looks like now compared to how it looked back then, because I think there is a little bit of a correlation, and I think it's important to mention this. So, looking at the wave structure, and when I say waves, I'm not talking about like Elliott waves. I'm actually talking about the WaveMaster. So what I want to point out is the fact that back here, after we had a big move down, we had a couple different buying opportunities that were outlined on the WaveMaster, right? So we had the green, the yellow, the red, and the white waves on the daily were all in oversold, okay? And it just so happens that, the red, the yellow, the green, and the white waves, they're all down here in oversold as well. There's a couple similarities, but there's a couple differences. So the big difference is the fact that we had a fast move down here in November of 2018 going into December of 2018, whereas here recently we've just been kind of moving in this ending diagonal form. So the price action is a lot different today than it was back then. But the wave structure from the WaveMaster indicator is very, very similar. What I can say is it looks like we're going to get one more low just based on how things look here. And I'm going to kind of dig into the structure one more time here. But from the top, it looks like we've got an A, B, and then A, B working on an ending diagonal here into wave C. Now, typically when you have a 5-wave structure, which is what I've sort of outlined here, when you have a 5-wave structure that looks complete, right? I still remember back in the day when everybody was kind of looking at this as a wedge, but it was still too early to call it a wedge. That would not be an appropriate wedge. I would have expected it to come up to, at least right here to about the 786 to create a decent wedge. That never happened, and we ended up falling out of the floor. So the wedge theory was, that was way too premature. It was too early to make a determination that like, hey, there's a wedge here. No, there's not. There never was. There was never two touches to really look like a valid wedge. And then, of course, we broke down out of that. And so now here we are. We're down here. We're continuing to move down. And again, looking as if we have a completed 5-wave structure up, we would be looking to correct the entire move from the bottom all the way up here to our top. And I'm going to try and pin this right there. And on this exchange, which I believe I'm using Bitstamp, it was right at 69,000. So looking at the fib levels, we've got the 382, which we've obviously gone through. We have not gotten to the 50 just quite yet. And then, of course, the 618 is very, very low. I tend to believe that we're not going to get to the 618, right? So that's all the way down here at 10,200. I don't believe we're going to get down there. And if we do, I would be surprised, but it would be okay if we did. I would just be looking to get into more long-term buys. And again, looking at these fib levels, you can see here at the 618, you've got some resistance right here. You've got some support right here. So it would make sense for us to go down and test that. But based on the wave structure, the Elliott wave structure, from what I see here, it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. Fact of the matter is, when the red and the white wave get down here into oversold the way that they have here recently, it doesn't tend to stay down there for that long. And I'm on a daily time frame, so when I say that long, and I'm using air quotes, I'm talking like a couple months. It doesn't stay down there for more than a couple months. So more than likely, we are going to get a decent sized bounce out of this. But if this is going to be an ending diagonal, and again, you've got two touches down here in the bottom, you've got two touches up here on top, so you've got two trend lines, right? It may be too early to say that this is in fact an ending diagonal, but fact of the matter is we have two touches on the bottom for a lower trend line. We have two touches up above for an upper trend line, and it just so happens that they are converging on each other. So once one of these two does decide to break, then we can make a determination of where price action is going to go. But as of right now, I mean, things don't look super great. It does look like we are potentially going to go up a little bit higher, but down here into January 9th or so would be a good place for there to be a good, decent bounce out of here, right? So once we start to see a move up and out of here, it's going to be very key into determining how we move up and out to make a determination on whether we're in a 1, 2, 3, or making some, other conservative targets for upside to get into an A, B, C scenario. So as I've mentioned before, I'm perfectly fine buying spot down here. Leverage traders have not been, there's been a lot of success, right? There's been a lot of success, but people that do buy leverage that are sort of in it for the long haul, people are trying to do what Chip Zhu did back in 2018, getting basically a short up at like 20,000 and riding it all the way down to like 4. People are trying to do that, and that's not going to work out really well for them. And, it's going to be evidenced by the fact that there is a great possibility we're going to come down here to potentially 14,650 before we see that move up and out. And if you're long from 16,833, where we're at right now, and you get long right here, well, a move down here, that is a significant move. That's a 12% move. So if you are at 10x leverage, you're now liquidated, right, on whatever position that you had. So just be very cautious for a move like this. And again, going here from the top, I just have an A, B, C that I've kind of put in here. But what I want to point out is, the fact that from here, a nice A, B, C to complete this wave A. And then we also have, again, an A, B, C to complete this wave B. And then again, we've got this A, B, and then finally, what I believe is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and is the 4 in? I'm not sure. I did discuss just the other day the fact that we could be coming up here again, maybe given some time, right? So we could be looking at maybe the 10th of January for this move to be complete, and then that move down, and it could go a little bit below that 50 to complete wave C. And of course, this is going to be on a lower degree. So just looking for that move to complete wave C, and then we make that determination on where our targets are going to be from there. Now, I'm not expecting Bitcoin to move significantly to the upside, right? And I guess when I say significantly, what I really mean is I'm not looking for Bitcoin to go much further than $100,000 in this next cycle. I mean, it could possibly go to like 120 to 150, but I'd be very cautious on getting a move that's greater than that. One of the reasons why is I'm going to go to Bitcoin on a different chart. I'm going to go to on Coinbase, and I'm going to go to a weekly here. And I suppose I could be taking a look at BLX. That would probably actually be probably a little bit better. And I'll probably have to, there we go. All right, so, this is just sort of like the entire history of Bitcoin put into one chart. So let's just take a look at this, right? So we've got the price range, from the bottom. I'm not going to take it all the way down here to a penny. I'm going to start, roughly right here. I mean, it's at 3 cents. what kind of a percentage move did we see on that first one? And let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger for you so that you can see the text. Let's see here, label, we'll make that, instead of 10, we'll make it 20, okay? So you can see that, basically 94,000%, right, on that first move. And it was only a $31 move. But now, on the next move, from this bottom to this top, what did we see? We saw a 57,000% move, okay? So we went from 94,000 to 57,000. So that was a significant decrease percentage-wise from where, from where we started. And then we saw this bottom back here in 2015. We went all the way up here to the top in 2018, only 11,868%. So we went from 94,000 to 57,000 to roughly 12,000. And well, then what did we see? We saw this move here from this bottom, and then we've got this top right here. Well, that was only 2,000. We'll call it 2,100%. Now, that is another decrease, right, in the percentage. So the next move that we get, it's going to be less. And we would expect it to be less. As a market matures, we expect that to be less. Okay? So let's go ahead and, just see, let's say we bottomed, right? Let's just say, for hypothesis sake, that we have bottomed. We're not going to be looking for a 2,000% move, right? If we saw a 2,000% move, the same as we saw in the last run in 2019 and 2020, that would take us to 334,000. And again, I'm expecting the next run to be less than 2,000%. It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of maybe 1,000%. Because, kind of going back, looking at this here, going from 94,000% to 57,000%, no, that's not quite cut in half. But when we go from 57,000% to 11,000%, that is basically an 80% reduction in the return. And then when we go from basically 12,000% to 2,000%, right? So that is 1/6 the amount, right? So that's that's what, 18% the returns from what we had in the previous cycle. And then I'm projecting, maybe we get this cut in half, but it's also entirely possible that we do only see maybe 800, 700, 600%, right? Getting us up to, again, that $100,000 mark. Like, I'm not in the camp that Bitcoin's going to $1 million or anything like that anytime soon. Now, don't get me wrong. I still see significant upside from where we're at now. I still believe that taking an asset from $16,900 to $100,000, that is, a really amazing return, and you shouldn't ignore that. But I also don't want to get in the camp that we're going to now start to see another parabolic phase, right? When we look at markets and they're going up, sideways, up, not as much, sideways, up, not as much, sideways, they don't immediately just do this, right? Typically, that's not what happens. For the market to do something like this, to go significantly up, this has to come back significantly for us to get that big thrust to the upside, right? So if Bitcoin decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and, spook all these people, and I'm going to go all the way back down here to $1,100, now we can start talking about Bitcoin going significantly higher. But the fact of the matter is, we have been basically creating, here's a low, here's a higher low, and a higher low, and a higher low here. We're starting to create another higher low. And then we've got, a high and a lower high and a lower high and a lower high, right? Once we start creating a new low, then we can start talking about, where is this correction going to end? And then we make a determination on where that next parabolic move is going to go. And again, when we talk about parabolas, right, I would definitely consider this as a parabola, right? You know, if you take a look at this, you can't tell me that that's not a parabolic move. You know, what we saw in 2020 to 2021, I mean, it had some structure of a parabola, but it looked nothing like we saw here in this manic phase. So, you know, I mean, be on the lookout for any kind of a parabola in the making, but also recognize that when that parabola breaks, that you need to be looking to kind of reduce your exposure, reduce your risk, because when a parabola breaks, more often than not, it rolls over and starts moving to the downside. So again, you know, looking at the price action that we're experiencing right now, you know, we've discussed this at length numerous times. I just want to talk about this for just a moment, and then we'll go ahead and close things out here. I'm going to take my fib channel tool. I'm going to go ahead and pin the bottom here. And again, this is not anything new, right? So we'll put this here. I'm going to bring this over. So again, we've got a touch here. We've got a touch up here. But what I also want to point out is the fact that when you have a range like this and it breaks, typically you will expand that range. And that's, you know, basically what happened here. We broke out of this range that we were in, and then we went down and we did a 100% expansion to the downside. And now we're trying to get above the median, right? And if I go ahead and zoom in on this, you're going to see this with really decent clarity that we are trying to get above this median, but it is holding. It is definitely holding. Now, when we do get up through this, right, again, you want to see some consolidating above this level before we start to see a move up to do a retest, which, you know, we would love to see a retest of this channel that we were in for, you know, for quite a while. We were in there from basically Thanksgiving all the way through, you know, December 13th or so. And before we eventually topped out there, and then we started that move down. But now that we've gotten this, you know, it's a pretty clear 5-wave move. So we've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? This looks like a completed move, and you can even count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this move here to finish off, you know, that wave 1. Again, let's just go ahead and put this on here. A nice 1, 2, 3, kind of prolonged wave 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 5 waves right there. So, you know, that looks pretty decent for that move to the downside, which means, you know, this move that we're in right now, you know, we've got a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And then we're working on the sideways move, right? This doesn't really look like a wave 2. This really looks like a wave B that we're in right now. So again, we've got a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Let me go ahead and just kind of dive in just a little bit more, go into a 15-minute time frame, just taking a look at the indicators here on the 15. Again, this first wave right here, after seeing basically your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, finish off that move right there, right? So you've got a nice little lower right here, right? So that looks pretty good there. And then we've got, you know, kind of it was kind of expanding a little bit here, but eventually did come back down to retest this lower before it started to see that move to the upside, right? So looking at this, you know, again, I'm going to put this on a lower degree. Looking at this move down, it looks to me like we've got 5 waves down, and then we've got 5 waves up out of here. But the big difference is, well, one, we didn't really pull back significantly on that move from this bottom to this top. We didn't really see a huge retracement, right? We didn't even get to the 382. We obviously didn't get to the 50 or the 618. I would really expect to see something like that in order for a wave 3 to go to the upside. This doesn't really look like that so far. But again, looking to correct the entire move from this top up here to this bottom down here that completed that move. Obviously, we found some resistance here at this 382. If we push through this 382, chances are pretty good we're going to get up here to the 618, maybe the 65. We're going to be looking for that golden zone. Okay, so I've got a template here for my golden zone. So right here in this area is where I would be expecting price action to go and get rejected. So, maybe we don't do a clean retest. Maybe we only get to about 17,600. Again, I do kind of expect to move up there. I don't really expect a whole lot more than that. If I go ahead and take my trend-based fib extension tool, get my dominant pivot low, dominant pivot high, and take what we have gotten so far as the pullback, right? It should be no coincidence that basically taking this dominant pivot low, this dominant pivot high, and getting this pullback that we have hit so far shouldn't be any coincidence that it literally lays right on top of the golden zone, right on top of the 618 is where our 100% target would be. So again, we've seen a little 1, 2, 3, 4 sideways action and then into wave 5. And then, a little ABC. Then we've started a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 1, 2, and then we get this bigger 3, 4, and then we go up here into wave 5. And maybe this is all we get right there. And then from there, we do take a little pivot and move to the downside. I did discuss in my video just a couple days ago, maybe it was yesterday, that usually right around New Year's is right around that time is where there is a bit of a pivot. And I discussed that in depth on one of my previous Bitcoin videos. I believe it was yesterday morning. So you may want to go and take a look at that. But right around New Year's, whatever price action exists usually gets reversed. If we're going up into New Year's, chances are pretty good we're going to start moving down after. If we go down into New Year's, well, there you go. Chances are pretty good we're going to move up after New Year's or somewhere in that area. So, kind of be on the lookout for that. And again, if we do go up here to this target, right? So let me go back out to a 30-minute here. And just to look at this wave structure, if we get up there and we don't push up into this area up here at about 19,500, well, then, basically you're going to have to start looking for that move to come back down here at about, that 14,650, 14,670 area. All right, guys, this is what I've got on Bitcoin. Potentially a little bit of a move up here. Let's make a determination what happens there. If it does happen to go up here into this 1618 area, that would actually be really great, because that would mean that we are going to be going and testing this trend line up here. Although, of course, give it time. How long did it take for us to go from this point here to this point here? It took us about a month. So it's not going to go from here straight up here over the course of a couple days. It's going to, again, probably take, maybe a week, maybe a little bit longer, right? Before we do, see prices up here, if we see them at all. I can say that Bitcoin dominance is going to play a big factor in these moves. So, watch dominance as well. And if you are on our Discord, all of the information on Bitcoin dominance. And speaking of the Discord, if you need access to the Discord, you can find all of the information on BitDoctor.org. If you need access to, all of our education, our trade ideas, we do options trading, all of that good stuff. You can find all of that on BitDoctor.org. But if you just want access to the Discord, where we have our, our chat that's open, you can see that link here on the screen in front of you, and in the video description as well. And of course, last but not least, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a good evening. Take care, and remember, the stock market is only open for 4 days next week. It is a shorter week, so we only have a couple days left this week, and we'll see how things go. Take care, everyone.